Mic check, mic check, mic check. Oof, got us. What is the best Bible translation for you to read? Because let's be honest, there are so many options to choose from. And so in this video, we're gonna be talking about the differences between all the translations and figure out which one is the best for you to read. So the Bible was written in two languages. The Old Testament was written in Hebrew and the New Testament in Greek. And then there are some places in the Bible where it's written in Aramaic. So I guess that makes it three languages, but for the most part, it's written in Hebrew and Greek. And when it comes to translations, there are two major philosophies. Bill Mounce, who is a scholar in New Testament Greek, and I studied his book when I was in seminary, and he sheds light on the overarching question that translators need to ask themselves when they're trying to figure out and determine their translation philosophy. And that question is, do we translate the words, or do we translate the meaning? And that is the most basic and most fundamental question that they have to ask themselves. And so on the translation spectrum, on the one hand, we have the word-for-word philosophy, and then on the other hand, we have the thought-for-thought philosophy. So let's break it down. And so the word-for-word philosophy, what they do is they take the original language, the Greek and the Hebrew, and then they translate it into English word for word. And so if there's a sentence that has 10 words, and if it follows a certain word pattern and a certain word structure, then translators would do their best to follow the exact same word pattern and then fill it with the exact amount of words. And so the word-for-word philosophy really focuses on the words as much as possible. And so some of the Bibles in this category are the ESV and the NASB, the KJV, and the RSV. The thought-for-thought philosophy is a little different. They focus on the overall meaning and the overall intent of the passage. And so when they're translating the Greek and the Hebrew into English, they're trying to do it in a way where it can have the same impact to the modern-day reader as it did to the original audience. And so they're not concerned with following the same amount of words or following the same structure or pattern in the original language, because they're concerned about finding the overall meaning and then conveying it to an English-speaking audience. And so some Bibles in this category are the NIV and the NLT and the CEV. Now, I do want to add one more category here, and that are the paraphrases. And what they do is they add in certain words or phrases into the original text, not to change the meaning of the passage, but to add in some context and some color and some freshness into the passage. And I'll be honest, this makes some people very, very uncomfortable, which I totally get. But for me, I feel like that these could be helpful as a supplement to your Bible reading. And the most well-known in this category is The Message by Eugene Peterson. So here's an example where we see those differences in translations very clearly. In Genesis chapter 6, God commanded Noah to build an ark with very specific dimensions. And in the ESV, it says this: "This is how you are to make it. The length of the ark, 300 cubits, its breadth, 50 cubits, and its height, 30 cubits. But in the NLT, it says this: "Make the boat 450 feet long, 75 feet wide, and 45 feet high." So the ESV kept the word cubits in its translation, whereas the NLT translated that word into feet so that it could be more readable to modern readers. And so the ESV opted out for accuracy, which is the word-for-word philosophy, whereas the NLT opted out for readability, which is the thought-for-thought philosophy. And so the question is, which Bible translation should you read? And the answer to that question, my answer is to read whatever translation that gets you to read the Bible. Read the Bible that you feel that God speaks to you clearly and powerfully. Because at the end of the day, what's most important is your spiritual growth and your spiritual health. And reading the Bible is one of the ways that can foster your spiritual growth and health. And so read widely, read different translations, because each translation offers something different and unique, and it can also broaden your perspective and your understanding of God. For me personally, I like to read the NIV. This is my Bible right here. It is being held by duct tape. Thank God for duct tape. But I also read the ESV and the NLT and the Message Bible. And so you don't have to do what I do, but that's just what works for me. But hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you guys learned a lot. Take care, God bless, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya. Hello, welcome. If you have waited this far, you're here for the corny joke and not because you want to learn more about the Bible, but that's okay. But I'm going to reward you with a corny joke today. What do you call a funny jar of mayonnaise? LMAO.